And welcome back. Well, we're going to continue now with our guest, Nancy Lord. She's a candidate for Fifth District Judicial Judge. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right, great. All those names. Anyway, and she's going to tell us about some of the cases she's been involved with and her experience in general in the judicial system. So you were saying before we went to break, Nancy, that one of the bigger ones that you've been involved in was Valley Electric versus Overfield.
That's correct.
What's that all about?
That case involved a gold mine near Johnny, and Valley Electric wanted to put a huge transformer on them and offered them what they considered an inadequate amount of money. We went to trial, a jury trial. It so happened the day that we started was the day that the Mountain Falls burned down,
Oh, I remember
which
that.
was very sad. But that was the day. Judge Davis was the judge. And at the end of it all, my clients did not get everything they wanted, but they did get more than the power company had offered them. And there is a statute in the NRS 18.010 that says very clearly if you prevail at trial but less than $20,000, the plaintiff gets their attorney's fees back. It's not a constitutional thing. It's simply a Nevada law that says if you take a case to trial and you get something but not 20 grand, you get your attorney's fees. Well, Judge Davis agreed and awarded me fees.
Oh,
Valley Electric appealed. And I told them, what are you doing? I mean, this is one case. Just pay me. Otherwise, you could have a precedent all over the state.
right.
Well, they came up with meritorious case law as to that there was no constitutional right to the jury verdict and all kinds of cases all over the country about the constitutionality of the price paid in eminent domain cases. And my response was that it had no relevance. It wasn't a matter of eminent domain or the constitutional right. It was simply NRS 18.010 says you can have it. Doesn't matter. And they said no, they wanted to know one way or another. We argued the case in Carson City on a horrifically snowy day. I couldn't even land in Reno. I had to go to Oakland and drive down the I-80 with snow like this on either side of the road. But I got there and I went to court and again heard these long-winded arguments about the constitutionality of, eminent
Right.
domain. And I said, Your Honors, it's very simple. If you take this law away from people that are facing eminent domain proceedings in regard to the power companies, they could offer some family in a single wide $500 and they'd have to take it because they know that if they go to court, their attorneys are not going to be paid.
Right.
And that's really all I need to say. And sure enough, the Supreme Court went for me. Me and Judge Davis won.
Wow.
And it's a published opinion.
Hey, great. Yeah,
And
you're
and,
right.
and it's really made it impossible for the power company to cheat people because they know that if they don't give them the money they want and it goes to trial, they're either going to pay them $20,000 or they're going to pay their attorneys.
Wow. Well, that is a good one. One for the little guy.
Yes, one for the
'Cause,
people. I like
well-
to think of myself as the candidate for the people. And if the people want a voice, I am the choice. And
Good
I am
deal.
qualified for the job.
Well, eminent domain, I don't think it gets any bigger than that as far as going up against the big guys, does it?
Yes, yes. Well, here's one, though. There was a case I wanted to mention earlier. This was in 94. I had a 16-count case in Albuquerque involving the Food and Drug Administration, where my client was acquitted on all 16 counts except one that was hung. And it was right around the time that the DeShahee bill was being lobbied for. It was a wonderful case about the oppression of the FDA, the overreaching agency, and it's still up. There are several web pages that still have excerpts of my closing argument. One is one called Gifts of Speech, and the other is the client himself, Terra Mega Nutrients, still has it on his website to this day.
Huh.
And it's really quite an honor to have people still be talking about you 20 years later. It was a big victory for the vitamin movement. It was a big victory for health freedom because what I showed was that juries just don't like the government telling them what they must do with their bodies. We had some wonderful experts who testified about the merits of my client's product and just how the FDA had blocked all sorts of things and was trying to take away their vitamins. One mistake they made a comment about chili pepper in New Mexico, and I sat through my whole close with a chili pepper in my hand. But people don't like overreaching government, and there are cases where you can put the government's case on trial. Not many. Everybody wants to do it. There's not that many where it's appropriate.
So from the Fifth District, where does someone appeal? To the state Supreme Court if they're not happy? I mean,
Yes,
are you
yes.
just
And
you're,
then this
you're
is
one
another-
step from the state Supreme
Correct.
Court?
We have no
with
court
your
of
decisions.
We have no court of appeals. Very important point. As judge, I will rule in writing. I had a situation with Judge Wonker where she had made what I thought was a totally inappropriate ruling, and I tried to writ her to the Supreme Court, and they came back and said, we can't give you any relief because you had no written order. She was telling me what to do through fax machines to another lawyer's office. I'm not going to do that kind of thing. If I want to rule and I know someone's not going to be happy about it, it will be a written filed order so that if they want to take me to the Supreme Court, they can do it. Very important point. You've got to do things right. And then the Supreme Court, that isn't the end of it. After you go to the Supreme Court and you've exhausted your state remedies, in some cases, you then can appeal to the federal courts if it involves federal law, such as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. If you have a First Amendment case in our court and you lose, and then you appeal it to the Supreme Court, you can then appeal the constitutional issues to the federal district court in Las Vegas, and then the Ninth Circuit, and then the U.S. Supreme Court. You can also go straight from the state Supreme Court to the U.S. Supreme Court in certain cases.
Have you worked for judges before?
Yes,
are
I
you familiar
did.
with the process?
Yes.
And-
In my next
okay.
to last year of law school, I clerked for the United States Federal Claims Court with Judge Nettesheim. So I learned how to write an opinion, how to look at the lawyer's briefs, read the cases they're in, and decide how to weigh it, decide who was right, and write the opinion. And I wrote several opinions in that court. Not all alone. Obviously, I was just one of the team. But it was a very valuable experience. And I became so close to the judge that she actually performed my first marriage.
Wow.
She came and did my vows for me several
neat.
years later, yes.
Well, I don't have any further questions, Nancy, but do you have anything that you'd like to expand upon?
Yes,
that-
I'd just like to say that you can be assured, as district judge of the Fifth Judicial District, I will see to it that every party gets a fair hearing. I will apply Nevada precedent without bias or prejudice, and everyone's justice and everyone's rights will be upheld in my courtroom.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for being our guest tonight, Nancy. And that's all for Talk TV tonight. We will see you again real soon. And this time of year, it's going to be a candidate. Have a good night. We'll see you later.